Welcome, Tony. Thanks so much for joining me. How are you today?
I'm actually really good. I'm very busy, believe it or not. I should be slowing down maybe. As I might have mentioned on Instagram a few times, I seem to have lost most of my normal work, but it's okay because I'm kind of being super productive and actually just getting busy creating content and just doing stuff I actually love, which is really interesting. So I'm enjoying today. I'm busy. Yeah.
That's good. That's good to hear. I'm really curious to know, as someone that I consider quite a sociable person,
Yeah.
we obviously know each other outside of work and hang out, and I know you to be someone that is often out and about doing things, meeting people. How's it been for you, as such a social person, to sort of handle things at the moment?
Well, I'm still being super sociable, actually, just in new ways. So I've been road testing things, something I'm calling huddles for my Shelf Help community, which is bringing different people together. So a lot of my hosts and community members have been helping me test that. So every day I've had at least 2 meetings with 8 other people, smiley faces, most of whom also don't really know about how the technology works. So it's actually been really funny and brilliant. And that's been a really nice kind of way to check in with people. I've also been doing the same with my family, which has been like chaotic, which is basically like the same kind of chaos as a normal family party at mine. So I think at the moment it's all quite novelty, right? So I feel very in touch with everyone. I've got too many WhatsApp groups going on, so I've muted a few of those, which we might talk about later. Just because there's so many different inputs. So I actually I still feel very connected to lots of people. I'm making a real effort to do that. So I'm not feeling the bite of the kind of social distancing just yet. I feel physically distant, obviously, but socially distant, no.
Okay, it's so interesting to hear different people's experiences and how people are coping with the challenges that are taking place at the moment. And one of the reasons that I wanted to speak to you was because I read a blog post that you'd written that
Yeah.
seemed to get shared a lot and have a massive response, all about working from home.
Yeah.
And can you share a little bit about that post and why you decided to write it? And
Yeah, well, originally I decided to write it because like you said, I work from home already. I think you said that, sorry. I work from home already for myself, but it's taken me a while to kind of get used to it, probably about 5 years, because I used to work as a journalist for 15 years on news floors, which is completely the opposite. It's kind of like super hectic, filled with people, pressure all day, every day, people shouting at you, which I think I kind of liked. So working from home for me was a real learning curve, learning about myself, learning about how to plan your day, your time, how to prioritize, how to be responsible for yourself and motivate yourself. I just, as soon as people were starting to get sent home by their companies, I was getting lots of messages from friends saying, how do you do this? It was like 2 or 3 days in, and they were just like, they were not enjoying it. And I think, so I just thought, what I might do is just do a piece on how I do it. And I did a shout out, and I got so many responses back from my community and also friends and colleagues that everyone has got a different method and different things work for different people, but we're all now we're all in this together. I just thought it'd be interesting to write a piece. But I feel like the piece is actually the piece needs to be updated already, and it's only a few days old, because I wrote it how to work from home, from a position of someone that is choosing to work from home and is able to change my environment when and if I want, and also working from home by myself. And now, obviously, as things are evolving and moving so quickly, a lot of people are working from home with families or with partners, and they're not able at the end of the day to just shake it off and go out for go to the gym class or go meet their friends at a restaurant. So I think a lot of the strategies that I use, and maybe you and your listeners, for working from home now, are going to have to be adapted a little bit. So I think the response I'm getting now is, yeah, great, we love the piece, but how do I do that with the husband and kids? So I found loads of good resources actually, which I'll share as we go through. But it was a really interesting, I enjoyed writing the piece, and I learned a lot. I learned so much from people. And I also realized I don't always take my own advice. So I think I said to you earlier, I didn't even realize it was Friday at the moment, because I am sticking to my routine, as in getting up at the right time and doing my workout and stuff like that. But not watching the news so much and kind of just keeping myself out of that. So maybe I need to follow my own advice a bit more.
I think we're all like that. We're all good at giving advice, and then we don't always take it all ourselves. I think that's totally normal. One thing I was really curious to discuss with you was how being at home a lot is going to affect introverts and also extroverts. Because when I think about it, I can think there could be benefits and drawbacks to both of these types of people. And I know that probably a lot of people listening are probably, well, on unofficial polls that I've done on my Instagram of my followers, the majority of people seem to be introverts, and that seems to be associated with anxiety. Do you have any theories on how this will affect, these two types of people in terms of being at home a lot and working from home?
Yeah, sure. It's the same actually with the Shelf Help community. I would say not all of, but a lot of introverts. So having time to kind of meet people, connect online, and ask them how they felt about meeting digitally and all that kind of stuff has been really interesting. I think some things that have come up for introverts is you can have too much me time. Like this is like, it's kind of enforced me time, right? Enforced mindfulness, which is, we can see it as a positive, but unless, I think if you're an introvert, you still have to go to work most of the time, or you'll still see your friends in some capacity. But now you're going to really have to make an effort to consciously do that. So I would say, don't go for too much me time. Enjoy it, but don't have too much. And equally, don't say yes to too much. And this is just a kind of like practicing, getting used to being online. Some people I've spoken to who work online all day are now on kind of on video calls all day, and then they say yes to all their kind of social things that their friends are planning, and they feel just totally wiped out by the end of it, because it's just so much input and output, because you're video conferencing all day in meetings, but then also you're on the WhatsApp and you're kind of then agreeing to social hangout and all that kind of stuff. So be aware that that is still energy giving out. So, and for some of us it's more energy because we're not used to the technology. We don't really know necessarily how it's going to go. So I think like you would be in kind of regular life, kind of be careful about where your energy goes and plan that. With regards to the extroverts, then I would just say social media, that's what use social media in a good way, because that's what it's for, right? So social media was designed to connect us when we can't be physically connected. So there's so many great things happening now, lots of live stuff on Instagram, loads of courses people are joining, lots of friends. I've got a friend who works in events, and they created a VR pub that they're all going to go to tonight. So there are ways to kind of stay social and not be physically connected. The classes I'm kind of loving, and also, but I would remember that not everyone's feeling the same as you. So I know as an extrovert, when I'm really excited about something, I want everyone to be excited about it. And when you're in the same room as people, you can kind of you can see body language and you can read cues more. But sometimes I think virtually we don't have that. I also interviewed somebody called Dr. Tara Swart recently, and she's a neuroscientist, and she was talking to me about being very aware that we're going to go through a curve. It's almost like a grief curve. When you lose something, or when something massive changes in your life, we all go through this curve, and we go through it at different stages. So over the next few weeks, we're all going to be feeling like we need some quiet, or we'll be feeling sad, or we'll be feeling scared or nervous at different times. And so for extroverts, and I include myself in that, to remember that the people around us might be going through different things at different times, and so to be aware of that.
That's so interesting. And yeah, I'm thinking a lot about that, how I know that with my friends and with, yourself, we've been co-working on Zoom, and everyone's been connecting on WhatsApp and checking on each other. And I just wonder if that will start to wane in the coming weeks, and whether people will, particularly introverts, feel themselves starting to retreat more, or that isolation will start to really kick in. So I think it's good to be aware that those things can change, and to maybe, if you know yourself to be someone who can withdraw, to try to make plans, or try to, I don't know, maybe it's even about letting other people know, like your friends know, I have this tendency to withdraw and go inside myself. Can you just check on me, or can we keep this going, this regular contact going? I think it's good to have those sorts of conversations.
Yeah, and I think regular is a really good word here, because we can talk about routine and our daily routines, and we will, I'm sure. But if you just the knowledge that you've got a regular Friday lunchtime check-in, for instance, or Friday night, like I don't know if you've heard the term quarantini is being kind of bandied around, and it's just friends all meeting at the same time, like bring your own, right? It doesn't need to be blues related. but it's just like it's that kind of social. So every Friday night, if this is kind of, we're going to be in this situation for this foreseeable, then you check in with your friends. And the whole point of the beauty of the virtual check-in is that you don't need to be there for hours and hours. It's just a check-in, and sometimes it's like a virtual hug, right? You just need to know that there are people out there that are interested in you and care about you, and you don't necessarily need to kind of go deep dive into your problems or challenges. But I think sometimes, just having that regular plan in the diary is enough to keep most of us kind of going even before the events happen, right? Just knowing it's there is quite motivating and quite uplifting. So for introverts especially, I would book that in and ask your friends to book that in.
Definitely. I just remembered that I found out the other day that there's a Netflix setting, I can't remember what it's called, that allows you to connect with your friends on Netflix and watch a program together and chat about it in a chat box. And I'm just gutted we didn't have this when we were watching Love is Blind, because that would have been brilliant. But that's, just my top tip.
That would have been life over.
Yeah. We touched on the topic of routine. Now, when I obviously speak to people with anxiety all day, every day, the topic of routine comes up a lot as being so important for helping us to be balanced in our mental health. And of course, now things have gotten changed and shaken up, and we're maybe going to be outside of our normal routines. What sort of advice or insights do you have about being at home and sticking to a routine, and what have you learned about that over the last couple of weeks?
So I would say routine is now more important than ever, because there's so much we can't control at the moment, and this feels a lot of chaos and kind of things are changing all the time. So what we can control is our days, our mornings, kind of how we choose to spend our time and our energy. So I think routine now more important than ever. I've been recommending a book called Make Your Bed, and it's by an admiral from the Navy SEALs. He was in the SEALs for, I think, 37 years, and he's written a book, and it's 10 rules for life. And the first one is make your bed. And it sounds super simple, but the idea is that by doing that, you've achieved something in the day. You set yourself a task and you've done it. So moving forward, you feel a little bit accomplished and a little bit of pride. Also, it's a reminder that the small things matter. And now more than ever, the small things do matter. And if we are going to be housebound, some people might already be, if they're listening in different countries. If you're housebound, it's really important to make that bed, because your environment, it really dictates for me and for loads of people, I know this, your environment will really dictate your mental well-being. So having a tidy, smart environment is really important. More important than ever, I think. I mean, the morning routine has always been important to me, and since I started working from home. So now I'm just treating myself to an extended morning routine. I used to dream about imagine having a whole hour and a half to do whatever I wanted in the morning. Now I kind of can, because it's the time that I used to spend going to meetings maybe, or prepping for different things that aren't happening now. So I'm kind of enjoying that. But I think my advice here is to zone things. So we can zone our days and our evenings and our weekends, which I'll talk about in a minute, to zone the house, so to physically zone different spaces for different things, and also to zone duties. And this is especially important for people trying to work from home with kids, husband, flatmates, other people basically. Because like I said, the original piece I wrote was about me working from home, just considering myself, but actually it's turned into doing everything from home, right? So I think the zones are really important. And I feel like the routines, it's great to have kind of treat it like a school day almost. But for me, what's going to be really important, as you said, as quite a sociable person, and as someone who really I still do, really looks forward to Fridays and the weekends. It's like, how are we going to make these blocks of the day different? So that, because we're all now talking on Zoom, on video conferencing, we're doing it all day for work. So if we're doing that for our social life as well, how are we going to make little changes to make that a bit more, turn it into fun, or turn it into the evening? What's going to be your end of day? You've got the morning routine. What's your end of day routine to say, work is now over and I'm going to kind of move into the evening? For some people, it's kind of putting your laptop away and hiding it and doing a kind of, today is now finished, and kind of saying it out loud. For some people, it's washing their face, changing their clothes, having a shower, doing a workout, going for a walk while you still can. Maybe that's when you check in with your friends. So I think, zoning the day and the week and the weekend like that is really important. And that obviously goes back to the routine, right?
I think that's such an important one, about having an end to the working day, because I know, myself, that it can just be constant. Unless I have boundaries in place or some kind of plan or routine, I'll just be answering emails at 9 p.m. sat on the sofa, or work encroaching onto the weekend. And I think, especially at this time in the world when we need to look after our mental health more than ever, having a process of switching off and bookending the day with something to help you to calm down or relax. Or I love the idea of taking your makeup off or getting changed, having a shower, just to be able to get into that relaxation mode and switch off from the day. I think is so important.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think FOMO is the only thing that stopped me working sometimes, because there was something happening and I was like, can't miss that, so I'm going to get off the laptop. Or I had planned, like I always used to plan a class. I go to Frame Studios and I'd be like, I plan my class every lunchtime, because otherwise I just work through lunch. It's what I did when I worked at a company, because we were churning out content the whole time. So I got quite used to just head down and get on with it and not having lunch breaks and things. So it's bad training from that, but it's also, if we're going to be at home a lot, we need to be really extra strict with ourselves on those boundaries. So I mentioned like zoning the house. I've seen some funny memes going around about like getting ready to go to the living room tonight, because it's like, the living room, is that going to be the place that we kind of like have dinner and drinks, and like that's our social place? But it's like, I think it's quite important, especially if you're working from home with somebody. Like, where's your office space? Where's your desk space? Where's the other person's space? I have a bad habit, probably this about co-working, but my husband has now realised that I do this a lot. When someone's sitting next to me, I just ask them questions all the time or want to talk to them. And it can be about work, but it's just anything that comes up, will just ask. So Dan now puts his headphones in, and that's a signal that for me, that he doesn't want to talk, or that he's trying to work, or he'll literally go in the other room. So it's kind of looking at the space you've got and working out how is that best going to work for you and the people in the home. Maybe we'll talk about families in a minute, but if you are trying to work from home with kids, it's really important for you to almost be out of sight when you're not on kind of daddy or mummy daycare, because that is your work zone, and then this is kid zone, and it kind of, that I think that needs to be figured out. So just kind of some planning around that is probably really useful for people.
I think it'd be good to talk about that a bit more. I heard that in China, following all the coronavirus outbreaks and people being confined to their homes, the rates of divorce went up quite significantly. Right. Because, most of us are used to, even though I work at home, my partner, 3 days a week was going into an office, and he worked from home a couple of days a week, and we got used to that rhythm. But now we're together 24/7, literally 24/7. And I'm sure everyone, who has a partner is probably in a similar position. And if that's a completely new experience, if you're used to having your own time, your own space, or obviously the kids going to school or nursery, then that's a massive change, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. So it's the C word, it's compromise, which mostly we're not generally so good at, all of us. So it's basically working out everyone's needs in the situation, because we're all going to be at home working from home, whether that's doing your schoolwork or as an adult or whatever. But I asked, I've got lots of different, I'm not a parent, but I've got lots of nieces and nephews, and I'm anti-Toni to lots of people. So I asked a really broad mix, and I got 2 really funny responses to this about how you work from home with kids and a family. And the people who have never done it before said earplugs, wine, and a knife for the husband. And the people who've been doing it for a while were like routine, shifts. Shifts is the most important. Again, so it's like zoning the time. It's like you have to decide at the beginning of the day who's going to be in charge when, who's going to be looking after the kids, and who's going to be able to do some work, because then when there's a kid meltdown, it has to be the person who's designated in charge, because otherwise it usually reverts back to the kind of main caregiver, or the person that spends most of the time with the kids. But now it's all changing. The boundaries are kind of shifting a lot, so it's important to kind of get them in place at the beginning, I think. The people who do it well as well, working from home with children, so do something at the beginning of the day that it involves a lot of energy. So I think Joe Wicks is doing a PE class at 9 o'clock every day from next Monday. So Barry's boot camp, some people have been doing with their babies, which is, I think, is brilliant online. So it's just anything that kind of, it's good for us because it's like growing up, so it gets your energy going, but it kind of starts, the kids kind of like are not then just fizzing all day and wanting your attention. So it's, yeah, kind of looking at that they have needs too, right? We all do. So it's it's compromising, and it's working out what's the best way we can all do it and the most fair way. So I think the way to do that sounds a bit boring, but doing a bit of planning, working out some days I now need to be recording content at home all day. So my husband's going to have to find something else to do, and vice versa. So it's kind of working out the diary in advance. And then, yeah, blocking out those times. And also, I asked my husband about his feedback on this, and he said we should need to finish the day at the same time. So otherwise it's silly, because it's like, even if someone's making dinner while someone's working, if at all possible, if you can both say at 6 o'clock our work day's done, and then whatever you do, like we decided we're going to start looking at recipe books and start cooking properly tonight because it's Friday, it's date night, so I'm actually going to shave my legs and get ready for dinner. And then we're going to have a drink and have dinner and then go clubbing in the lounge. So we're kind of like, it's still novelty, right? So to ask me next Friday, it might be a bit different, but I think, yeah, so it's like the zoning of the days, the zoning of the duties, zoning of your kind of space, all important.
That's so helpful. And I know just from my own experience with Aidan, our number one argument is when one of us is working, the other one is wanting to chat and connect maybe at the end of the day, or cooking dinner and want someone to chat to, and we'll get into stupid arguments about the one person not being present because they're working, because I literally work on the kitchen table and obviously he's there the whole time, and there's just that scope. And I think that's such a good point about having that time to switch off. Or maybe, you know, if I'm really focusing, or he is, to have headphones in, or we've been saying to each other, you know, right, I'm having an hour of power now, please don't interrupt me for the next hour because I'm really focusing on this. Or, you know, if you've got different rooms in the house, maybe going and sitting in different rooms. But yeah, I think that's something we all need to be mindful of, that divorce rates don't go up in the next few weeks because we can't get on at home. But, you know, I always think that actually, sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say, I love the power hour, and I love the kind of, I'm going to be doing this now. Brené Brown, she did a podcast with Tim Ferriss, and they were talking about parenting, and she's quite a mindful parent. I mean, I'm not a parent, but I just love listening to how she brings up her kids. And she talks about, people say marriages are 50-50, and she said, or partnerships, and she said they're not at all, hardly ever 50-50. It's usually 80-20, 70-30, 60-40. And her and her husband have a conversation where they'll say, how are you doing today? And one of them will say, I'm at 20. So the other person needs to bring it up to 80. And they have that conversation, and then that understanding that, okay, fine. So as like maybe with our busyness levels, or maybe with our work levels, if you're kind of saying to Aidan, if you're saying to even to your flatmates or whatever, it's kind of, this is what's going on for me right now. I need this kind of level of space, and so they need to tone it down a bit. So I quite liked that. It's kind of like, again, the compromising, but it's having that chat at the beginning rather than just passively aggressively typing really loud like I like to do, or Dan putting his headphones in with a dramatic flourish. So it's kind of like, yeah, you know that I need to work for a few hours now, and then I will give you time, and like you said, be present, because we do want that. But now it's going to be very important that we don't let everything just bleed into everything, right?
Yeah, totally. And I love that idea of, it sounds like to me, almost asking for what you need, asking for support, letting your partner know if you're having a difficult time of things and you need them to pick up some of the slack, or, you know, noticing if they're struggling and you need to be the one that's going to be taking over for a little bit, and having those conversations about that sounds really important. I would really love to know, we're going to need to wrap this conversation up in a minute, but I'd love to know from you, were there any other, because I know you spoke to your community, the Shelf Helpers, about their tips and advice. Was there anything else that they mentioned or that came out of that you found interesting?
yeah, it was just take advantage of all the resources that are out there, really, because whether you're introvert or extrovert or however you normally run your days, suddenly there's this whole people are just sharing so much online. So everyone I speak to, it really seems they're kind of like recommending. So it's like a resource for it's almost like a directory of live events, because everything I do with Shelf Help is about bringing people together. So the challenge for me is, how do I do that online? But suddenly, like I said, Joe Wick's doing his PE class. All the studios in London are kind of doing online classes. And I think the community really are enjoying trying all different things as well, because you're kind of anonymous in these classes. So it's a good time to try things that you might never have tried, and then not worry if you don't get it quite right. So I'm loving live classes, because it also makes me actually go to them, because I've always had like online yoga, but it's like on demand, right? Whereas now I've got a favourite yoga teacher, Josephine McGrail, and she's doing a 7:30 class every day. So every morning I do a bit of my morning routine, but at 7:30 I'm on the mat. And it's so nice to see that some of my other friends' names kind of pop into the chat box. So what's happening with my community is that people are sharing a lot of resources like that, so that we feel like we're kind of socializing together, but not necessarily just in a hangout when we've been online all day already, but we're socializing as in we're enjoying the same experience, and then we're able to share about it.
That's such a good thing to access. And I'm thinking about how, it makes it more accessible. So people that aren't in London could access a yoga class that maybe they couldn't in their local area, or it's a bit more affordable, I think, quite often, the yoga classes or the fitness classes or workshops, than actually going somewhere, and you don't have to pay for travel. So it makes it more accessible. So there are definitely some interesting and kind of beneficial things to do with the crisis that we're experiencing right now. And I'm just trying to focus on the positive things that we can get out of it, and how to make the best of what is a bad situation. So I love that.
Yeah, there are those aspects of it. People are really coming together in different ways. Like on our huddles, I've been talking to people in LA, in Scotland, in Paris, and we're all on the same call. And it's like, how amazing is that? We're all hanging out talking about the same stuff, which we probably could have done anyway, but we hadn't yet. So it's forcing us to embrace this way of connecting.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Thank you so much for talking to me. This has been really, really helpful. Where can people find out more about you and the things that you offer and what you're up to?
Well, I would love you to come and see us at shelfhelp.club, which is the website. But at the moment, I'm doing lots of online content through Instagram, and also sharing it on Facebook, but mostly Instagram, which is shelfhelp.club. So I'm doing a live reading every morning of a book that I think is good to help keep us kind of grounded and present and positive. And then I'm also doing a kind of, I'm calling it the Keep Calm and Stay Well series, where I'm interviewing lovely experts like yourself, Chloe, clever experts, and about kind of how we can best manage these times coming up. So that's in the evening. So yeah, loads of online content there.
Amazing. Thank you so much for this. It's been so good.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
You
See you
too.
soon. Bye.
Hooray.